Yeah. Okay, so here we are celebrating our own not back to school season. And we're doing it together because you really don't have to feel isolated. A lot of ways exist to connect you with other unschoolers like this, right? And so I'm doing these webinars every now and then because it helps you see that there is a community out there around you. And maybe it's not close by, maybe it's online, but we're here. So I've had people tell us in the chat where you live, what your time zone is. Go ahead and do that if you're just now coming in, because it might help other people in the chat see, oh, that's not that far from me. Oh, this is maybe not such a weird thing to do. um, okay, because I know that most of us are in a world where most kids go to school, right? And we've decided it's just not a good fit for us or for our kids. And the reasons are so varied. We have so many different reasons people might decide that school isn't going to work for their family. You can tell me in the chat too, because I'm always curious what are your top couple of reasons of why you've opted for unschooling, or maybe why you're still thinking about unschooling, but why you're hesitating and what you're worried about, because that helps me know about what to do podcasts on, what to write resources for, and um, and I can help you. All right, so let's see. Oh, I had on here. Show of hands or emojis, whatever you like. Most of us have had this first day of school come and gone. You know, maybe it's happening this week, maybe it's happening right after Labor Day. Um, but this is kind of a familiar scene, right? This bus scene, we've all seen the bus pulling away, and it's without your kids. And so sometimes that might make you feel uneasy. So let me know in the chat, did it make you feel uneasy when the first day of school came? Or is it about to come? Or are you still uneasy? You know, just tell us where you are with this, because that will help us figure out how to help you. You know, for some of us, it really is a scary time. And that's why this time of year, for the last 20 years, I have been talking about not going back to school. Well, it seems like everybody else is celebrating that the kids are going back to school. So if we haven't met, I'm Sue Patterson from Unschooling Mom to Mom, and I've been around a while. And my kids are grown now. They're off doing their own young adult things, buying homes, starting businesses, raising families. And they got into college or trade school when they wanted. No doors were closed because of taking this unconventional approach to learning. And they had great childhoods. Yours are going to look different than mine, but you can just be as successful as I was at it. It takes gathering good information and getting the support you need, because we all learn differently, right? Parents too. And some of us like to gather things like guides and books, reading articles and blog posts, and others do better with more course type formats. And lots like me do best in communities with other parents finding their way through everything, because I have been doing this for 25 years. We started in 1996, so more than that now. And I've had to create a little something. I've had time to create a little something for everyone. So you can find it all at unschoolingmomtomom.com, and I'll have some links for you throughout the webinar that will help. And if you stay to the end, I made a little workbook for you, so you'll have access to that too, because even though we're not pushing workbooks on our kids, we're so conditioned to really kind of like workbooks, for a lot of us. Some people are like, I don't like it. I never liked it then, and I don't like it now. But some of us are like, oh, yeah, that kind of makes me feel better. Thanks. So I'll have something like that for you at the end. Let's see. Before we get any farther, let's make sure everybody has a little clarity about what unschooling is. Even if you haven't embraced the idea of unschooling yet, or you're almost unschooling, let's list a few of the key points. All right, so it's a legal homeschooling method. We don't do quizzes and grades and assignments, which is so familiar from our school approach. We learn through life instead of subjects. It's learner driven instead of teacher driven. The kids follow their interests and curiosities. The parents prioritize partnering with kids, valuing their choices, and the parents trust that humans are hardwired to learn, and learning happens. So I mentioned that website because it is a great, let's see if this will work. I made this thing to see if I could, oh, it does. I mentioned the website because it's a great entry point into unschooling for you. And I have a lot of information there, and it just had a facelift. So I wanted to show you on here. It's scrolling through what the homepage looks like. And interestingly, the web designer is an unschooling mom. So she knew what we needed. She knew she has teenagers, and she knew what kind of questions people are going to ask and which things are something that would be really helpful for you. So you have a lot of people around you that are willing to share and help. Um, and Unschooling Mom to Mom is on all the different social media platforms. I even just did a TikTok 20 minutes ago. I'm so bad at it though. But that's how you get better, right? You just keep on trying. Tell me in the chat too, because it'll be interesting to me. Put what how did you hear about this? Did you hear about it on Facebook? Are you in the Facebook group? Are we connected on Instagram? Or did you see it somewhere else? Let me know how you found out about it, because it helps me know. You're like, okay, if everybody is saying they found out about it on TikTok, I guess I better get a little better at that. Or if it's Instagram or Facebook or wherever. So that will be kind of interesting. And while you're doing that, I just want you to know that I have this new tool that I've just made like this past month, maybe the month before. No, it was the start of August. And it's called an Unschooling Checklist Challenge. And it's also free. And it's 7 days, which sounds like a lot when I say it like that. But it's like, think of your first week of unschooling. What do you wish you knew? What do you wish you didn't have to go back and try to figure out? What it's just 7 emails. It's a series of emails where I'll give you a PDF and I'll give you a little inspiration, and we'll just walk through the different points that you're going to need to know about. So I have little it's really mini action plans for each day. So you won't be overwhelmed, but you'll be able to kind of walk through it and see what's going on. And these are some of the different topics that we cover, like are they exactly the different topics that I cover. And so you can sign up for that, and I'll give you a PDF at the end too that has all the resources, because sometimes it's nice to just have it all in one place and say I don't have to go scrolling through the website to look for it. So all right, ready for our celebration. I thought I should have had like blowers, party blowers or something. We could have had prizes and gift bags. I didn't do all that. I just did this. So sometimes when we're nervous though, we stop looking at the reasons to celebrate, and we're mainly looking at what we're afraid of, right? And fear will crowd out all the good stuff. So that's why I wanted to do this webinar, to bring all of this to the front of your head. So let's talk about ways unschoolers are celebrating. So they've got pool parties and potlucks and park days and hitting the road for camping trips and little day trips. Have any of you could tell me in the chat, have any of your communities hosted a not back to school party? Have you gone to anything like that in the past? What kinds of things did they do? I'm always curious about the different places, because it's going to often be weather related. When we moved to Austin, it was always a pool party because it was still over 100 degrees. Or if you're planning to go to one, if one's coming up, we used to do something every year, and it's good because it reminded us that other people are doing this too. Lots of times there's a whole lot of enthusiasm at the start of the school year where everybody's like, okay, what have we got going on? What could we do? We want to take this pottery class, or we want to do this stuff with the kids. Are there any other kids that are maybe interested? And so that will going to these kinds of not back to school events, even if you're planning out a little ways for a not back to school event, that's okay too. But sometimes what happens is on that first week of school, when the neighborhood kids are all going off and still enthusiastic about it, it's nice to have something going on. One time we lived somewhere where there were so many kids in the neighborhood going to school, and they were all talking about how great it was, even though we remembered what they said back in May when they were hating it. But they were all enthused about it at the start of the school year, and we went camping. Sometimes it's good just to leave for a couple of days so that your kids have something fun to do. And maybe your not back to school thing will be smaller and it will be more family sized. Maybe your family will go off to a water park or to a movie marathon or just have breakfast in bed or sleeping late, going to the beach, all the different things. Whatever the point being, it's not, oh gosh, Sue says go to the beach. The point is find what your kids really like and do that all day long. So that you can say, this is what freedom looks like. This is what being able to chart our own path, do our own thing, and learn, because as you learn more about unschooling and about learning in general, they're hardwired to learn. So if you're like, I don't know if that would be called learning, well, then you still got some deschooling to do, which is fine. We all have deschooling to do. So let's see, what else do I have in here? I know that the kids are happy that they don't have to get up early to catch a bus to get to school on time. That idea of sleeping in. Maybe you're having a day full of Star Wars or Indiana Jones, and you can just pick whatever is fun, because what would make their day great? What would be a way for you and them to connect? Not, oh, let's pull out workbooks and sit down at the kitchen table, because that's a way to make them hate it. I mean, sure, a few of us have had little ones who are like, I like to do my workbooks, and that might be fine, and it might be the best way to learn a particular thing that somebody wants to do. So I'm not like anti-workbooks, but I want you to know that there are other options, and many of those other options are way better. So one of the things to know, to remember, and think about why we're celebrating is that summer doesn't have to end. It's there are so many reasons that we can follow the seasons instead of following because the school system says summer's over. And it looks a whole lot like yesterday, the day before school. It didn't really do a big shift. That was just what the system decided, as opposed to what's happening in the real world. So you get to live in the real world instead of that artificial system. That's a huge plus. You can just stay more tuned into what's happening all around you in real life. Another reason to celebrate is that there are shorter lines everywhere. Now is the time to go shopping in those back to school aisles, right? Weekdays can look like ghost towns in some of those places, but it's nice to get right in there without any crowds. Especially when we go camping or to libraries or museums or beaches, now's the time to go, right? More reasons to celebrate. And for practical reasons too, the prices drop in a lot of places once so many families are going to school. You'll also find that a lot of those crowds don't happen because the schools tend to not do their field trips in September because they're still kind of all getting acclimated. And so that's why the lines are shorter. But also for the idea of cheaper rates for things, people travel less if their kids are committed to all of these different activities and things going on. So you get to take advantage of the lower rates. Let's see, what else do I have? Okay. You'll want to take advantage of all those sales that are happening to get kids ready to go back to school. Like, are your markers a little bit dry? Do you need new paints? Or how about new pillows to make everything a little bit cozier? Maybe now's the time to stock up on sweatpants and cozy socks. Which reminds me, I redid a meme. I don't know if you can see that from last step up there. Of back to school clothes shopping. And I'm not sure if anybody can relate to this, where we've got a public school version and a private school version. And then the homeschoolers are primarily PJs and sweatpants, and the unschoolers, you know. So I don't know if you guys have that going on at your house, but you might. Because again, it's what's comfortable, what totally fits the personality of the kids. So I have that to share with you. Let's see where I am on this. Okay, when I was asking around about what reasons other unschoolers had for celebrating not going back to school, the younger ones, like the people that were teenagers, early 20s, or the ones that have more recent memories of their school cafeterias, maybe, they mentioned that healthier eating options was really a plus for them, and being able to eat when their body said it was hungry. When my grandson went to school last year, his lunch was at 10:30 in the morning. Wow. 10:30 in the morning. That's pretty early. And what about the kids that get on the bus at 6:30 and their lunch is until 1 o'clock? That's something that we don't have to worry about. So when we're home with them, we don't have to follow those same set time frames that everybody else does. We can make it accommodate the people who actually live in our home, right? So another big reason for celebrating is, and this was one of my biggest reasons, was that their creativity and their curiosity could be strengthened because they didn't have so many interruptions. They didn't have bells ringing to shift subjects just when we were getting started. You know, that creates a habit of staying shallow and not digging deeper into topics. Why bother if the bell is going to ring? And then that doesn't happen at your house. Your kids could skip off to another topic whenever they want, not because some external system said it's time. And if you're worried about so much playtime, remember that's how kids learn. It's really how all of us learn. As unschooling parents, we're going to be able to tap into that a little bit more and maybe even figure out why we are resisting it so much. Okay, let's see here. Oh, because kids can pursue their interests all day long. That's how they're learning. We may not be able to see it, we may not be able to check off the boxes, but their brains are working on something all the time. The other huge reason to celebrate is that you have so much flexibility in your day. Another example of how unschooling really celebrates individuality is that we don't have to do things because other people do it. We do it because it works for us. I do want to add that sometimes people think unschoolers have no schedules or no structure in their days, and that's not true. Life sets up a structure. We just don't have arbitrary expectations and restraints. And one of the cool things we do in my membership group is to look at schedules for a week at a time and see what are we planning, what's realistic, how are we connecting with our kids. And when we set up little mini structures like that, we can meet goals, and schedules actually work for us. Let's see. It's really, I think that the keywords for that is like it's being more deliberate and intentional. And if you're having a hard time with that, let me know and we can see about figuring out some ways to get you some help. And so let's see. Here is the biggest reason to celebrate, that you have more time with your family. More shared experiences lead to more connection. More connection allows you to know what's interesting to them and what they've outgrown. It gives you insight into why they're making the decisions they're making. And it might make you more compassionate with them. Having more connection allows you to relax a little. You don't have to try to control everything because you're getting panicky, feeling that you don't know what's going on. You do know what's going on. And you can see that controlling everything isn't the answer. So for those of you that are having a little trouble with this, or maybe you've just pulled your kids from school, school got them when they were at their best and then handed them back to you at the end of the day when they were worn out. And that alone is going to be different. A lot of times people say, oh, I don't know if I could do that because their kid is melting down or something's going on. They're like, I don't know if I could take that all day long. But when unschooling parents get an opportunity to look at what's causing that and to be able to make adjustments, you have a lot less meltdowns. Sure, kids get frustrated, but you have more of an opportunity to be able to tune in and see what's really needed. So prioritizing the relationships and the connection, it's what leads to all the good things. So oh, I tossed this on here too for those who haven't seen it. It's just a meme that I made. And it if you need a couple more reasons that you want to celebrate unschooling, because these are some of the advantages that you have, that the kids are going to develop more confidence, they're going to understand themselves better, you get opportunities to tap into the world. And then how about benefits for the parents? Somebody was saying to me, well, what about parents too? Let me see if this is in our way. I'm not sure if you can. More adventures with your family. You get to live at a slower pace, or a pace that fits you and your kids. You get to learn cool things too. You get to learn more about yourself and what's going on with you, and undo some of the learning that has happened to you in the past. You get to control your schedule. You have more connection with your kids. You get to create a fabulous childhood for them, and you get to make decisions instead of just passively complying. That's a lot of reasons to celebrate. But then you're like, okay, great, we're celebrating. Now what? So the first, I want to give you a couple of ideas. I don't know whether you guys can see that. Oh, well. A couple of ideas of action steps, because I always want to give you what can you do to move yourself in a direction that's going to make you more confident. And so in that Not Back to School Unschooling Guide, some of you bought that, and some of you are in the membership group and you have access to it. There are 30 different suggestions for creating new traditions at this time of year. But a few of them that I wanted to point out is that maybe you're just going to make a special brunch with their favorite foods. Or maybe they'll come downstairs and there'll be boxes of art supplies waiting at the dining room table, kind of a la an Easter basket. Maybe you're going to take photos in the same spot every year just to show their growth. That's kind of cool. And it doesn't have to only be about school. It could be on their birthday, it could be on January 1st, or it could be on the day that everybody goes back to school and they are, in some funny pose that they want to have. And but then you do it over and over and over. There's been some cool photos go across the internet that show people as they get older doing the exact same position, right? Maybe you're going to have a movie marathon, or you're going to make a list of favorite things to do for this month, that this will be your Not Back to School tradition, is that you get these things happening. This is what you do more of. And especially during that time where you're really kind of offsetting the almost false idea that school is fun. And maybe for some people it is. I have my theories about why that might be, but I think that living a free life, enjoying your interests with support from loving adults, that is a better way if you can make that happen. So think about what are ways that you could create a new tradition with your family. If you want to say in the chat some of the things that you might do for new traditions that you've done in the past, or that you're like, I'm going to do that. Share with us in the chat. That would be good. And help the kids find fun things to do. Maybe you need to update the game closet, or, like we said about art supplies, but science, or magnifying glasses, or test tubes, or new food coloring to make new potions, or whatever it is that they want to do. It's time to stock up so that you have the tools you need to enjoy the life that they want to live. Maybe you're going to explore the community. Think like a tourist. What could you do that would be kind of different and fun, and something that maybe you haven't done with your kids before? I do have an All About You PDF, and that's going to be in the PDF I'm going to give you in a minute. Ways to talk with the kids about what's going on with them, because I think that sometimes we time has gotten away from us and they're not doing Lego anymore, or they're not playing with their little My Little Ponies anymore. Now they're doing something else. And so even to have that as a new tradition, that you do this All About You, All About Me PDF on that in this first month of this back to school, not back to school time frame, that would be good. And then also there's a unschooling guide called Brainstorm Time, and it's also in the membership group. If you wanted to join the membership, you'd have access to that, but you could just buy the guide if you want. And it goes to 20 different things that are out in the community or in your home, of ways to brainstorm with the kids on how to connect. Because sometimes when people are so used to thinking about curriculum and you take that away, and they're like, well, now what? But now what is things like hikes and exploring new restaurants and going on walks or doing community service or watching movies or cooking together. There's so many different things, and you might need to brainstorm with them. And this has been a really good tool that a lot of people have enjoyed. So I want you to know about that. Let's see. And then the third thing is to remember to create your own action plan. Let me see if I can move this. So you want to work on strengthening your own foundation, reading about unschooling and deschooling, listening to podcasts, watching videos, doing your own personal work, so that because we're all going to come to a place where we feel a little nervous. And I think that what we have done on the good times, when things were going smoothly, will predict how hard we're hit with a bad time, right? It's kind of like you don't just go climb a mountain. You have to like walk around the block a couple times first before you would go do something really big. And so the same thing happens. It's not a familiar thing for us to understand about unschooling. And so learning more about how it works and seeing and talking with other parents, getting the support that you need so that you know you don't have to do it alone. Because these two things, knowledge and support, are what you need for unschooling success. So I made this, and it's going to be in the back of your PDF, because sometimes people get overwhelmed with all the different things that are available. You know, when you have 20 years to make stuff, you end up making a lot of stuff. And so over here is a free column of things that if you just want to like test the waters, or you just want to put yourself, like maybe every morning when you have your coffee, you listen to a podcast or you read a blog post, and you just put 5 minutes towards it, and you set up your own like training program where you are conditioning and deconditioning some of the ideas that you've had about how people learn, how we move through the world, why do we do some of the things that we do that we used to maybe do in a school setting, but that we don't have to carry over into this setting. So I have an email list. Move this over here while we talk about it. The website, email list, that unschooling checklist that I talked about, the podcast, there's videos, and of course there's all the different social media where we share blog posts or memes or inspiration or have little conversations like that. So this is what's on the free end. And then so like the next step up would be to kind of for the DIY types. Maybe you get the Strewing calendar, which gives celebrations every day that your kids can print. You can print off the calendar and they can say, oh, I want to celebrate parfaits for breakfast. You know, they can circle the kinds of things that are interesting to them. And then it can kind of help you see that the world is bigger than math and reading and science and spelling. Because math and reading and science and spelling show up in all the other places. So instead of focusing on those first, focus on enjoying life, and then the educational part just happens as a natural byproduct. So there are these unschooling guides that I made. So this is for if you're having like a trouble with a particular issue and you want to dive a little bit deeper. So those are available. And then I have a book 75 young people talked about life without school, and they were from like 15 to 39. And I asked them all the questions that people wanted to know, like how did you make friends? How was it getting into college? Um, how did how did you learn? Do you hate your parents? All the questions that everybody wants to really know, and they answer. They're really candid, so it's a great book, and it's under $10 as a digital book. If that's something, it's available at Amazon. It's also available at the website, and it'll get you to all the links. And it's for free in my membership group. The Everything Counts ebook, it helps you see what ways that subjects weave through everyday activities. So I have things listed by subject and then all the different ways that you're already doing that you can say, oh, we did do a little math today. And then coming soon, like as in a couple of weeks, maybe even next week, I'm making an unschooling teen toolkit that has a bunch of these different resources in there that you just buy them all at once. And I think that will be really helpful to people. The jumping into unschooling course has had to go up because my pricing, the pricing for the platform went up. And so I had said on my email list that it would go up um, on September 1st, but I think we'll just wait until Labor Day and give you guys a chance to use that, the discounted price, the 149 instead of 199 is what it's going to be after Labor Day. And then I don't mean for this to turn into an infomercial, sorry. And then the next way, so like if this is a continuum where you have free on one end and more help from me on the other end, the monthly membership group is really good. Lots of support and information all wrapped up in there, and I'm in there every day. And so that's really a good way. And then private coaching, if you're like, I don't really want a group, I just want to talk to somebody. I have people that set up that we talk like every 2 or 3 weeks. And just for 30 minutes, you can buy this package and set a bunch of 30-minute slots so that we just kind of, what do we need to do and how are you making progress on different things? And I can kind of help with accountability, things like that. So these are some new ways that you can pay for more, just you'll be able to see it. Not a marketing person. So I want you to enjoy your unschooling adventure. Listen to the podcast, join the membership group for support. And then this is that workbook that I want to, it's these little pages that will help you walk through it. We can walk through it afterwards. I'm going to stop this share right now so that I can come back here and get you guys the link for those of you who are like, okay, enough. But I wanted to leave a little bit of time for some questions if you guys have it. Aw, thanks for saying that about the membership group. I love it so much. And so there is the link. Let's see, anyone have a partner that is, a lot of people have partners that aren't on board, Liz. And we can talk about that. Actually, that's what my next webinar, not necessarily partners, but I'm going to do one as we get a little closer to the holidays. And one of the topics in there has to do with criticism because of, it happens a lot. Okay, so there's the link for the free webinar workbook. Let me put it here again. And I showed you what it is. Okay. Oh, thank you guys. That everybody likes the membership. It's really great because it is you get coaching, you get a community of people that are really willing to work on this so that when your kid is doing something that you just can't quite break free from, you can come to the group or come to WhatsApp and Facebook or on the membership platform and say, help, what do I do about this? How can, and you're not going to get answers like, oh, we'll put him back in school. Oh, well, you need more discipline. All these different things that often the mainstream approach just is kind of like quick to give you. Instead, you have these other unschooling parents that are like, well, how can we help you? What could we help you see or help you, kind of uncover for yourself. So there's that. And so then we have coaching on Wednesdays, and coaching is coming back in this month, for in the evenings a couple times a month, and then a couple of workshopy things. It's just a whole lot. So there's coaching, and then there's this giant membership portal where I just practically pour everything into. So I've learned so much from the emails and the podcast. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I started with, and I do a private podcast for the membership group too. So it's a little bit more, it has to do probably with like topics that come up on our coaching call that I just want to say a little more about. Let's see. Yeah, Jennifer says 9 times out of 10 we're experiencing the same issue. And even when you listen to other people's things and you're like, well, this part of it really rings familiar to me, or I really need to think about how that component and how it applies in your life. So for me, I really learned better by being in a community, and we had email lists and things like that, and that helped. And I certainly made a lot of connections around the world, really. But we didn't have Zoom calls or things like that where you could actually talk to people, and that's really kind of cool. Okay, let me come. Oh, wait, Maria had a hand up. Maria, do you want to ask your question? I gotta see if I can find where the questions are. Anybody know off the top of their head? Could have done a poll or a quiz. All right. Let's see here. Is there a way we could get a subgroup going? I wonder. A subgroup. You mean like unschooling mom to mom kind of subgroup? Or, I mean, because you can make an unschooling group anywhere, anytime. And you can tell me about it, and I'll post about it on the thread in the Facebook group, for your area, and we'll see if we can find some people that, if that's what you mean, come back and tell me, Carrie, if you mean something else. And Maria, if you want to unmute and ask your question, you had a question, your hand was up, but it won't let me. So you may have to write it in the chat. Sorry. I don't know what I've done that blocked everyone from talking. Not in the group, trying out the link. Okay. So here's for those of you that are looking for you can just click, that workbook that I just gave you is PDF. So all the links will work. So you'll be able to, I say all the links will work, but the website was redone, which is gorgeous, but a lot of links are not working because some of them are like, I started blogging in 2008. And so there's like a redirect to a redirect to a redirect to, at a certain point, the system goes no more. And so that's kind of happening from time to time. So, but she set it up so that if you come into a link that doesn't work, then you can just put it on there and say, give me the right one for this because I have it. I was ahead of my time. That's it. No, I was just creating what I wanted. That was really what it was. That's what it all boils down to. Make what you want. Don't, we're so conditioned to wait for the PTA to set it up for us. There's no PTA. You are the PTA for your family. And so you can set up what you need to fit your kids. And then you can pivot when it doesn't fit them anymore. When you can say, oh, instead of like, if you set up, oh, I'm going to create like something like Outschool, and you send your kids and they have to go the whole time. No. Let's make things workable for you, whether it's for your kid, and then that models it for your kids so that they know you don't have to be a victim to whatever the powers that be want to bring something to you. You can make things. Okay, let me see if I can scroll up. If somebody has a question and can unmute themselves, they can do that. Unschooling only one child. Oh, there are a lot of people that are unschooling only one child. and it has its own advantages and hardships, just like unschooling a whole bunch of kids has advantages and hardships. And so you have to also be careful that you don't get a story going in your head of like you have it harder because blah blah blah, because that works against you. Instead, if you can think more like, I have a challenge, and here's how we're going to address it. Here's how I'm going to solve it. Here's, that everything, it's all about choices. And I think when you remind yourself that life is full of choices and that I'm making them and I can pivot and make a different choice, it is really empowering, as opposed to I'm just stuck. You're not stuck. Every day you wake up, you can make a new choice. If you wake up and these kids are driving me nuts, okay, do you want to work on it, or the school will always take them back. You do pay taxes. I mean, the free babysitting is there. um, you may choose differently, but somehow knowing that no, this is still my choice. I should have put this as one of the action steps. One of the biggest things that you can do is to really think about your why. Why am I doing this? And that when you can get a lot of clarity on that and you think about why, it will help you during those times that you're like, why am I doing this? Because maybe you have written it in a journal, or maybe you've just brought it to the front of your mind where you can think about why make this choice? What are our advantages? Just like back about in the slides that I had about what are some advantages for your kid in your situation in your life, and advantages for you too, because there are some really great things that happen for you as an unschooling parent, simply because you made this choice, because you're on this path. And so, all right, I don't know why I kind of got off on that. Off on a tangent. Let's see. Love that. Choices and stories we tell ourselves and narratives affect everything. Absolutely. I find it challenging transitioning to unschooling my three boys. They are all so different in interests. It's hard to keep up and be sure I'm providing what they need. Ashley. Yeah, I had three kids with all very different interests, so I get it. And I think what you have to remember is that you don't have to be the provider of all greatness. That you can um, connect with the kids in ways that they want to be connected. One kid may really need you a whole lot. One kid may only need you like at 11 o'clock at night. One kid may only, you know, may move into a phase where they do or they don't. And so you don't have to make it everybody gets this allotted time. Instead, it might come in phases. It might come like, um, for instance, I had one that was really into theater. So on Tech Week, when they were doing rehearsals all week long, everybody went. So Alyssa packed up all her My Little Ponies in a backpack and played in the back of the theater. And Michael and I went and got ice cream down the street from the place, but it was a heavy emphasis on Katie. And so another week, and sometimes the kids are like, why do we got to do it? Well, when you wanted to play soccer and we all got up and went on Saturday morning to watch your early morning game, this is part of how a family operates, that we kind of move fluidly depending on the needs of the people. So is that what you mean, Ashley, about how do you allot time, or is it something else? Are you able to unmute? I don't know if you can. If I've done something. I think I've done something that doesn't let you. If somebody else wants to write in the chat about ways that they have managed multiple kids and multiple interests. I think too that sometimes, because you mentioned as you're transitioning to unschooling, it kind of makes me think you might be a little more homeschooling thinking, that of like, am I covering all the bases? Am I hitting all of the important learning things? Remember that you don't have to do curriculum like that. You can, you know, if you have a kid that's into horses, those are what the books you're reading about with them, or those are the YouTube videos you're watching. And the other one is only like kind of interested and fades out and comes back. And then you think, well, we haven't connected. Let's you and I go walk the dog. Let's you and I hike. Let's do these things that you want to do. And so maybe it has to do with what you think has to be on the list, because the list is a little bit more flexible than maybe how you're viewing it. And then to always remember that that arc goes long. This is not a sprint where you've got to make sure everybody gets this. This is a childhood, a whole childhood and beyond. And so they can learn beyond their childhood. They can, you don't have like a finish line at 18. And, and that's kind of freeing too, right? Learning how to adapt to the needs of the kids in the moment. And sometimes we've got three needy kids all at one time. Sometimes that happens too. And it is sometimes helpful to tap into the homeschooling community and see anybody have a 12-year-old that's interested in babysitting for a couple of hours in the middle of the day, and that you could have like a mother's helper come in who comes in and plays Barbies, or comes in and digs in the sandbox, or plays Minecraft with your kid, or does something that your kid would really like to do, and gets you a little bit of break and gets their needs met. So you don't have to be the only one helping them get their needs met. So that might be an option too. So if you're not using curriculum, how do you make sure they're achieving what they're supposed to be? I think that the thing to remember is that when you are unschooling and you really understand how unschooling works, you recognize that the body is hardwired to learn. The body is curious. The brain is curious. We are always curious about something, especially when we don't have some external force saying, no, not that, this, right? So they can focus on the things that they want to do. And so how you get what they need, school does this thing where they give you all this information and they hope you remember it, and then they set you free. Whereas unschooling, you live your life really to the fullest. And then at a certain point, you're going to say, I need a skill, or I need some knowledge, or and then that becomes what you learn. So suddenly I need to know how to manage my money. I need to know how to read something so that I can do the thing I want to do. And so then you don't have the power struggle. You don't come to it too soon, which happens in schools a lot. They come to some academic thing that is before that little kid's brain is ready, because they're just operating on a bell curve. That means there's a whole lot of people on both sides of that bell curve that it didn't fit, right? And so you get to, so where are you? What do you need? Are you kind of interested in this? Do you love writing? So I need to get a bazillion colored pens for you and journal books, and we'll make signs and things like that. Do you hate writing? And so we don't do it as much until later, when suddenly they have a reason to do it. And so I think that when you wait for that, when you wait for those times, you continue to expose them to different things, then they get what they need. So how do you know that they have what they need? Because you're actively engaged with them, so that you can see, are they able to do the things they want to do? So oftentimes what the next step is to that question of how do you know how do they get what they need, is what if they want to go to college? How do they get in if they can't do these things? They can do these things usually. Maybe they don't know sine and cosine or the quadratic equation or something like that, because how often are we really using that in our lives, right? So that hasn't come up. And it may show up on their entrance exam, but when they take those community college assessment tests, The community college will put them in wherever they need to be. So if they aren't quite ready for college level algebra, they will take this. I always call it developmental, but the people that I know that work in community colleges, they're like, don't call it that. That's just English 3051. It's just pre taking the college level. You do it, you take these classes, and it's a pass or fail type thing. And then when you've gotten it, then you can take the college level classes. And so what my kids did, one of them passed all of those tests because he did a little pre-test, and one of them passed none of them. So don't, in the same household. And so what happened was she ended up taking these developmental classes, 3 in math, 2 in writing, and 1 in reading. And she's like, okay, I'm ready. But she was 18 years old and she wanted to be there. So she's like, I'll learn the quadratic equation. They told it to me on Monday and they tested me on Friday, and anyone can ask me. No one asked her, but she learned it because her brain had matured enough and she wanted to, and she saw a reason for it because she wanted to take. In the end, she went a different route, and she went to a conservatory that didn't require all of that. But it became that community college experience became kind of a transition. It became her. She goes, Mom, I got to, in 3 semesters, because remember there were 3 of the math, 2 of the writing, and 1 of the reading. In 3 semesters, I'm sitting in a class full of people that went to high school and grade school. I traded 3 semesters for 12 years. So if you think of that community college experience, even if they bomb all the tests and they have to take the developmental stuff, that's their transition into that higher academic world, if in fact they want it. Like my son didn't want it until he found out that to be in the Peace Corps, you had to have a degree. And he's like, well, and he's, well, I want to kind of be a travel writer too. So I'm like, I'm saying to myself, he's never written a book report or a research paper, and he wants to be a travel writer. Okay. And so I'm thinking, oh man, I have not prepared him. But he takes the class. He starts to take his journalism classes. He's doing fine. He ends up with a degree in journalism and magna cum laude. So that means he was all A's and B's because he wanted it, not because I was saying, make your, when he first started unschooling, and he went to school through 1st grade, and then we did Calvert because I was afraid to not go a curriculum route, which is so funny because I wanted this real creative approach, and I picked the curriculum that their tagline is school in a box. I don't know, sometimes we don't make sense in our decisions, or we have a lot of fear, right? So after she was saying, you have to write this and you have to write that, and I'm a writer, and I was like, we are making this kid hate writing. And so he and I had a ceremonial breaking of the pencils. We will not write for that woman in Baltimore again. And then he becomes, he gets a degree in journalism because we didn't make it so awful. When I was doing that book where I interviewed all those different people, one of the kids said, it's because I didn't have stuff crammed down my throat. So I was like, I don't know, let's see. Because that was how their unschooling family had approached everything that was new and different. And it wasn't like, oh, we don't do educational stuff. It all wove together. We couldn't really differentiate between educational and non-educational. So it makes a difference when you have that kind of a lifestyle, and it doesn't hold you back. It doesn't close doors. Let's see. Let me see up here. Somebody wrote something big, and I'll see if it's a question. Somebody get the link on here. The link is easy. It's unschoolingmomtomom.com/membership. So I can say it faster than write it. Anyone's kids into Roblox, my 6-year-old loves that game. Sometimes I sit and it's amazing how much they learn when they're playing those things. A lot of times people are talk about how their kids learn to read from playing Minecraft because they wanted to, right? Because when we understand those underlying ideas about why we learn, we don't have to do curriculum because we learn because we want to engage in the world in a certain way. And then we move in that direction. And we know there's not a finish line. If all this, I mean, I didn't learn how to do this until I was in my 50s, right? And so we're always learning, and the times change. And that's the thing, too. The times change so much quicker than they used to. And schools are still set up the same way they were way back in the early industrialized era. And so, but now things change quickly. And if you end up learning things because this is what we learn, 10 years from now, it's obsolete. And so this at least lets you move in the direction, lets you move with the flow of progress. And even if you think, I don't know if I call it progress, well, it is the flow of the world. And so they will at least be aware of how to navigate through the world, how to find the resources they need. They won't be sitting there waiting for someone to spoon feed it to them because they've been actively engaged in life all along. Right? Okay, let's see. I think we're at our hour. Those thoughts. Somebody has a lot of fear. Yeah. Well, we all have a lot of fear when we're. I don't know whether it's kind of like a. I wonder if it's kind of like a anthropological thing that when we do something from the rest of the herd, we're in danger. And so we still kind of have a little of that running in our heads, I think, that makes us kind of fearful to go it alone, be a rebel, be a maverick. We have a lot of society push to keep us conforming because that's where it's safe. But that keeps it small, and you only have one life, right? So, okay. Oh, wait, somebody had something here. It's interesting. Jay said, oh, wow, I have also had the thought I cannot die because I know that no one else, including my partner, would keep this homeschooling, unschooling thing going if I weren't here. I'm laughing to see my own thoughts pop up in someone else's comment. Yeah, I think we all worry that something's going to happen to us. We've all seen parents die, and now with the internet, we see it way more than if it was just our little hub of the town. And so then that gets our fear stuff going. And so anytime that you're making decisions out of fear, it's your red flag. What do I need to look at? What do I need to do differently? What information do I need to make sure things happen? We stay safe, and I continue to move in the direction I want to move because I am a free human being, right? Okay, so I think, the last one, somebody says, is it expensive to unschool the trips, the materials? I knew someone a long time ago who said a bus pass and a library card. That's all you need. It's probably still true, that I do think that it is easier if you have Wi-Fi in your home. I think that will allow you to have a lot more learning expand beyond just what you as a parent can bring to them. But there are ways, and I have a link. I have to find it for you. Message me on whatever platform we connect, and ask me for inexpensive ways to unschool, because I have a collection of things that people shared of how to be frugal, how do they manage with, a lot of us, like in our case, we made decisions so that I could be a stay-at-home parent. I had worked before, and that does mean we have way less income. And so what are you doing that is helpful? And then we have a long list of things, ways to shuffle your money a little bit so that maybe things you would have bought, you don't buy that, you buy something else instead. Maybe it's about a reprioritization, really. Okay, would it be possible to share those frugal ideas on the Facebook group? It certainly would be possible, Ashley, because I just had my website person say, I think we need to turn that into a blog post. I'm like, all right, let me get the webinar done first, and I will put it on there. Ashley, what's your last name so I can tag you? Whitey. Okay, I don't know if you know, some people's Facebook thing is different than their real name, so we'll see. Um, Shout out to the dads on the call. Absolutely, absolutely. Lots of times it's dad that's the one that's staying home and hanging out. And we have some dads in the membership group, and that it's interesting. Their perspective is a little bit different, but and yet not. So it's nice to be able to be inclusive and to let everybody, and just know too, even though the name is Unschooling Mom to Mom, dads are welcome too. And it's not that, and you're not even a second class citizen. Don't worry. But we won't have any mansplaining, but we do. We want everybody that decides to prioritize parenting their kid in a way that's kind of, prioritizing relationships, prioritizing connections over times tables and long division, or what year they learn to read, or, there's a whole lot written about kids that learn to read early on. It all levels out. And so kids that liked reading early on, cool. But kids that didn't, to think that in the end they had no advantage, and they just had all that thought of, I'm not smart, I'm not getting it, all of that just kind of living with them and becoming the baggage that they're going to carry with them forever. So your guys don't have to have that. Okay. Thank you guys for coming. And hopefully, let me put the link on here. I'll tell you what, if you didn't get it, because I think I'm only going to put the recording in the membership group because I wasn't going to do the recording at all. But there is the link. I just put it on there at the 2:06 mark for that little workbook that I made for you. If let me know if you need any help or need any resources, and wherever you saw this, if you could go back and write, oh, that was great. If you didn't like it, just don't say anything. But if you liked it, go ahead and let people know, because the algorithm kind of works against me sometimes, because I haven't been a person who makes a lot of reels, and it's all good. People find what they need to find. But if you want to leave a comment wherever you saw this and think, that was really great, thanks for doing it, or I loved seeing all these people, because it was nice to know I wasn't alone, because that helps too. And I'm sure there are things in this chat that I didn't get to, a lot of things, I'm sure. And I'll look at all of it and prioritize podcasts and blog posts and things like that based upon those kinds of things, because I can do that, and I'm happy to do that, because I just want you to see that you can be successful at this. I was just a regular suburban mom packing my kids off to school and not knowing I had any other options. And now I can tell you that we had a bumpy time for a while, and it's all right. It is all right. And if I can do it, you can do it. So reach out if you need help. Thanks for being here. And I will see you guys in all the places. Oh, I should take a picture. Do you guys want to turn on your camera? Let's see if I can do this. I won't be able to get everybody because it only puts like 20 on the top. Put your camera on and we'll all wave, and I'll do a screenshot if I can. Let's see here. Oh, it's going to work. All right. Big wave. Everybody, big wave. Yay! Oh, perfect. Thanks for doing this, y'all. And I hope it helps. Celebrate your time that you get to have with your kids, that you get to live the life you want to live. And I will see you in all the places. All right. Take care. Mwah. Bye.